Hello and welcome to another video tutorial for the Lightroom Learning Group. And in today's video tutorial, I wanted to show you how to make a watermark for your images. Now, of course, a watermark is simply going to be a text or icon overlay that goes on your image that in most cases will indicate either who created the photograph or who the copyright of that photograph belongs to. Now, there are a multitude of options when you create a watermark, and all of those options are found within the export dialog box. So of course, as we've discussed before, to access the export dialog box, you're going to right click on your image, go down to the export option, and what you want to do is select the first export option there where it says export ... and that will of course open the export dialog box. Now previously we had created three different presets: the DNG backup preset, the social media preset, and the website export preset. The DNG backup simply exports a raw DNG file so that I have a backup of my images. The social media export exports a JPEG with a watermark on it, and the website export option exports a JPEG without a watermark on it. Now these are just the presets that I created. You may have different presets or no presets at all. It does not really matter as far as creating a watermark. The only thing that you need to be aware of is that you cannot create a watermark on a raw or DNG image. So what I want to do is I want to create a watermark, and I'll do that in the social media preset export here. And you can see that I have a JPEG image, so it's okay to watermark on this. And I'll go down to the watermark option right down here. It is checked. So right now it's indicating that if I were to export this image, it would use the watermark that is labeled web and FMP center small. Now to access the different watermarks that you may already have, you just click the list of all of the watermarks that you have created. Now, if you want to edit a watermark or create a new watermark, all you have to do is go down to Edit Watermarks, click on that, and then that will open up the Watermark Editor dialog box. And this is where you will enter in either the text that you want to put in the watermark or the image that you would like to put as the watermark. So right here at the top we have image options, and you can select a PNG or a JPEG file to use as your watermark, and we'll go into that in just a moment here. But I really wanted to start with the text options, as I feel that's going to be the most common type of watermark that you guys will be dealing with. Now, if you wanted to access the different watermarks while you have the editor open, you can access those in the upper left hand corner here, and again you get the same watermarks that you saw previously in the last dialog box. So again, this watermark that I created is titled Web and FMP Center Small, and I call it that because it has my website address, and it says Fine Michigan Photography, and it is a smaller font as opposed to the FMP Big, which of course is the same thing, just a larger font. So you can see just right there that there's a couple different things that you can do as far as the font goes, size and things like that, and create really a multitude of options, because what you'll probably find is that for different images you'll want different watermarks as far as their location, their opacity, the font, things like that. You might want different watermarks because, for instance, if this watermark were towards the top, well then it wouldn't be so clear. All right, so but there are situations where you might want it at the top as opposed to the bottom. Now, as you can see there, I moved that watermark around by switching the anchor point. There are 9 anchor points within the watermark editor, and of course they obviously here go from the top left to the bottom right, and anywhere you click on those anchor points it will take that watermark to that position. Now you can also adjust the inset of the watermark, and the inset is just right here, and so that will if I move the horizontal inset to the right to a positive side, it's going to move it towards the middle of the image, and if I move the horizontal image, or the horizontal inset towards the negative, well, it would take it away from the center of the image. And then the same with the vertical. If I move the vertical in a positive direction, it's going to move that more towards the center of the image. And if I move it in the negative position, it's going to take it farther away from the center of the image. So then if I move that down to the lower right, well, you'll see if I move it to the right, it's going to move it up towards the center, and the horizontal, same thing. So whereas with the previous anchor, when I moved it to the right, it moved the watermark to the right, but if I go down to the bottom right, it's going to move it to the left. It's increasing the inset. And when you have it located on the center anchor, you cannot adjust the horizontal inset. If you have any of the center anchors adjusted, you can't adjust the horizontal, but you can adjust the vertical. And if you have it on the absolute center anchor, well, you can't adjust either horizontal or vertical inset because, of course, you're telling it that you want it to be directly in the center of your image. So the other things that you can do are you can change the size. You can make it proportional, and proportional just allows you to adjust it with that slider there. You can select fit, which is going to take it pretty much to the edges there, and then fill is going to make it really huge. Kind of silly. I don't know why you would do that, but I suppose you never know. I usually keep it on proportional, and then I'll adjust that slider a little bit to get it where I like the size of the watermark. And then above that, you can adjust the opacity. So at 100%, of course, it's just going to be pure white because I have the white color selected up there. And as I go down, obviously it's going to drag that opacity down. Now you can also adjust the shadow on the font here. So if I want to bring that up and then adjust the offset, well, you can see there that shadow is starting to drop a little bit. And the radius, the larger the radius goes, the more blurry that shadow gets. If you take the radius all the way down to 0, well, it's going to essentially just make a copy of your text there. But you can kind of blur it out there a little bit. You can change the angle on it. You can do really just a multitude of things with the shadow of that text. I'll actually go ahead and move that to the upper right so you can maybe see that a little bit better. So then we'll mess with the offset a little bit, and you can see how you can move that around, blur that a little bit more. So it's kind of neat, the different things that you can do with the text, and of course you can even adjust the color. You can come down here to the color wheel and select any of these colors that you want. I tend to just go with black or white. I think that usually looks the best, but you can pick any color that you like. So that's kind of nice as well. You can, of course, select from a multitude of fonts. There's just, a ton of fonts that you can choose from. And obviously, as you go through those, the font and the shadow will change. So that is how you do a text watermark. Now you can also do a PNG or a JPEG image as a watermark. And I'll go ahead and demonstrate those for you here. Now, if you want to, what you can do is you can select a JPEG. I'll just go ahead and use this JPEG here. And so you can see that it's now put it in the upper right-hand corner because that's where I last had my anchor. But you can put it towards the center, anywhere else that you'd want to take it. And you can click and drag to make it larger if you like. And you can also adjust the opacity of that. But of course, since you're working on a JPEG, you can't adjust shadows and things of that nature. So really just the opacity, the size, and the anchor location for JPEG overlays. But that can be kind of neat as well. So you can just kind of put that maybe down in the right-hand corner to indicate that that's for the Lightroom Learning Group there. So not a bad watermark there. But that's how you use a JPEG image for a watermark. Now you can also use a PNG image for a watermark. I'll go ahead and do that now. So I have created a PNG logo for the learning group here. And well, that's really, really small. But I'll go ahead and make that bigger here. So you can see the PNG, that includes both text and icon right there, but it also gets rid of the background. So this is a very nice way to have kind of a professional look to your watermark. So While I do think that text watermarks look nice, I think that when you add in the icon, like in this instance, I think it just kind of takes it up one more notch here and makes it look really nice. So usually this is the way that I'll go, is I'll create a PNG logo and then I'll use this for my watermark when I can. Again, of course, I'm not completely opposed to the text watermarks. Those work well a lot of the time. But what I really don't usually use is a JPEG image as a watermark. I'll usually stick to just the PNG or that text. Now, just like the other options here, you can use your anchor buttons to move those anywhere that you like. And similarly to the JPEG watermark, you cannot adjust the shadow and all of the other options that you had with the text watermark overlay. But you can, of course, adjust the inset there and the size. So I think that will look kind of good down there in the right-hand corner. And I'll just kind of decrease the opacity a little bit, kind of get it out of the way there. And I think that looks pretty good there. So I'll go ahead and I will save this as a new preset. Now this is important that if you were starting with your creation of a watermark on a previous watermark, you don't just want to hit the save button because that's going to override your previous watermark. So what I want to do is I want to go down to Save Current Settings as New Preset. So I'll click that. And now I'll just call this, we'll call it LLG for Lightroom Learning Group, and then I'll put an underscore, and I'll put LR for lower right. And I'll hit create. And now you can see that I have the LLG underscore LR watermark loaded. And I'll just hit done. And now I'll go ahead and I'll export this. I'll just export it to my desktop. So we'll export to desktop, hit choose. And again, we'll be using a JPEG with a watermark LLG underscore LR. And I'll hit export. And I'll go ahead and overwrite that. And it'll export that file. You'll see the progress there in the upper left-hand corner. And it'll give us a ding when we're done. And I'll go over to my desktop here. And I'll try to find that image. Believe this is going to be it right here. We'll open that up, make it a little bit bigger for you guys to see there. And now you can see there is that watermark that we created right down there in the lower right hand corner of that image. So there you go, guys. That is how you create different watermarks and the different options that you have while creating watermarks. Hopefully you guys found that helpful. As always, shoot me a message or post in the Facebook group if you have any questions. We'll talk to you soon.